Welcome to this first in a series of 3 special ABNcasts. We are recording with our friends at Trip.com. We've been invited into their central London offices, which have a very nice aviation theme to them. And I'm talking to James Spalding today, who is the Regional Director for Flights for Trip.com.
Yep.
Welcome, James. Thanks for inviting us into your...
Thank you for coming in. Great to have you.
Trip.com, it's Trip.com Group, which is a large multinational player in the aviation and travel industry. Just explain quickly about Trip.com Group, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so as you say, Trip.com Group is the parent company, the umbrella organisation. Under that, there's a few brands. The main B2B and B2C brands that we have are Trip.com, which is our international OTA platform. And we also have C-Trip, which is the China-focused OTA platform as well. There are a few other brands under the umbrella as well, but they're the 2 main ones that we focus on.
So in these 3 special editions of ABNcast, we're going to talk about 3 very specific areas where Trip.com works closely with airlines. The first one is we're going to talk about upper end VIP and premium flyers and the role that Trip.com plays in helping airlines to exploit what is a really valuable market for them. So we know anyone who works in flights, and you've been in this business a long time, longer than I have, knows how important it is that airlines get those customers who go on board and turn left, and that's where the profitability of running an airline really sits. So it's been good to see that side of the market seems to be quite resilient, has come back since COVID. How important is it for airlines, for your airline partners, that they really exploit this sector?
Yeah, it's a really important part of the industry, and as you say, most airlines have that focus, and from our side, it's an area that we want to focus on with our airline partners. When we know that's an area that they're interested in, and we know that our brand and our products can support that as well, it's really something we want to lean into. Ultimately for us, we want to make sure that we offer a range of products to our travellers, to suit every need and every taste. But as you say, the cream tends to be around where the premium travel is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate about where this premium travel is coming from. I think post-COVID, very early on, there were signs that actually it was the leisure side that was driving the return. There was upper-end customers coming back into travel. The revenge travel idea, they couldn't leave their countries for 3 years, so they wanted to get back into that. But I get the sense that really the pure corporate travel is coming back quite strongly as well. What are you seeing in terms of the mix?
Yeah, absolutely. We hear that from our airline partners that we speak to as well, and we see that in some of our data and some of our numbers as well. I'll add into the brands that we have. We do have TripBiz as well, which is a TMC arm for our business. So they're more specialised and focus a lot more with the actual corporates around that TMC side of the business. Within Trip.com as an OTA platform, we see a lot more of the discretionary corporate traffic. So some of that business that kind of bleeds over as corporate travellers are perhaps kind of searching and checking prices and content themselves. And for us, when we're looking at that, we do look at identifying the travellers. So are we seeing it as a leisure traveller, a business traveller, a mixture of both, the leisure side of it, and making sure that we are optimising our experience for our travellers as well as how we're working with our airline partners.
Yeah, I suppose the leisure side of it, which has been a bit of a sort of a catchphrase, not massively well defined, but with, I guess, the post-COVID work environment where people are either digital nomads or there's a lot more flexibility about where and how they work. I can imagine you've got a lot of people flying around the world just sort of working in different offices, or even just working from sort of home, if you like, but doing it in different countries. There's probably a lot of that going on, isn't there? Bringing their families with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, some of the industry studies that we've looked at show around about a 13% increase in business travel and premium travel since kind of pre-COVID times. Yeah. So it's been a segment that's been resilient and actually recovered possibly quicker than a lot of people expected to. Yeah, it's an important focus.
We've obviously seen in terms of the premium experience on board, the Middle East and the Gulf carriers really supercharging this and really sort of setting new standards that we haven't seen before, and other carriers sort of trying to sort of keep up with what they're doing. And so a lot of the trends we're seeing maybe are related to that segment of the sector and that region of the world. What are you seeing in terms of trends around customer demands in terms of premium travel?
The first thing I would say to this one is when within the team, when I'm recruiting, I ask an interview question to most of my candidates. Tell me who's your favourite carrier and why.
Okay.
And a lot of the time the answers come to these kind of premium airlines, what we would traditionally call a premium airline, and they always relate to the product and the service that you'd have. In economy, that could be a fantastic full experience, and then those business class cabins, the first and things like that, could be aspirational. If not in the reach of the mass markets. I think for me, what we're seeing in that is we're seeing some of those traditional carriers which have that premium focus unbundling their content. So traditionally they would have had kind of seat assignments and baggage kind of included in there as well, but we're seeing some trends where they're unbundling a little bit of that.
Okay.
And then the other carriers which didn't have a focus on premium travel. And when we talk about premium travel, I think one of the key areas is to how do we define premium travel? Is it just a cabin? Is it kind of going to the next cabin up, and is that premium travel in premium economy or a business class? For us, a lot of it becomes how do you get them to buy the correct type of ticket they need? And sometimes that's an economy ticket which has just got extras kind of added into it. Yeah. For some of those non-traditionally premium focused carriers, we are seeing them change some of their aircraft configs and put in more premium economy, more business class into it at the same time. So there's definitely a merger from both worlds, the traditional premium carriers to the ones that didn't focus on the past, to make sure they have a broader distribution and fit.
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly seeing with the economy cabin and some of these carriers, it's almost the equivalent of premium economy in others, and so you're raising expectations. Absolutely. All the time. When you ask your people, and they've experienced sort of maybe a premium Emirates or an economy Emirates, that's what they're thinking about, because not many of us can afford the upper end, but they look at that and go, well, this is my new standard for economy, which is putting pressure on everybody else to try to sort of match that. How does that change the approach to sort of customer service then? Because if with higher expectations comes higher expectations, and customer service is also part of that.
Absolutely. And for us, we have a holistic approach to our travellers. It's not just about how they're booking and that moment where they're kind of pressing the purchase button. It's about looking at them through the whole journey and looking after them through the whole journey. So that comes into the customer service element of it as well. You have to have a premium brand, a premium product if you want to sell a premium product or a premium brand. So we do position ourselves as a premium OTA and make sure we have a big focus on the customer experience through that book and purchase process, and then with the kind of the follow-up and the customer service. And ultimately, if a passenger is buying a premium product, then they want to be able to speak to somebody, to be able to get response on whatever their query is, or to be looked after fast, and that's what we provide.
Yeah, I mean, there's been instances because you're setting expectations around particularly what the seat configuration or what the seat is capable of doing. If a premium customer gets on board and for whatever reason it doesn't do that, there may be an issue with the seat. Hence, these carriers are very, very keen on maintaining their aircraft to the highest level possible, but there are always going to be issues. Yeah. And that's when you can get customer service sort of problems come in. I don't know if you get some of that kind of work to sort of deal with that customer, or they see it as the airline's fault. How does Trip.com work in terms of working with your carrier partners when the customer has a complaint and needs some sort of resolution from that?
Yeah, I think one of the areas that we do this really well is we analyze a lot of the queries that we have coming in and categorize it. So even if it's a complaint or if it's a compliment or a query on the booking, we'll make sure we understand what that is, because ultimately, if the passenger has needed to contact us for whatever the reason might be, we want to make sure that we're able to help them or to move that on. And ultimately, next time that happens, we don't want a passenger to have a similar negative experience if that's where it's come from. Yeah. So for us, it's making sure that we understand that, and we will triage the calls to understand if it's something that we can help them with, or maybe it is directly for the airline from that side.
Yeah. Before we get the guys on board, the customers on board, we need to find them in the first place. So how does Trip.com work with airlines in order to generate the demand for this kind of premium flyer.
Yeah, and again, that kind of goes all the way back to kind of how we're positioning ourselves as a premium OTA. Technology is a big part of it for ourselves. So regardless of how a passenger wants to use Trip.com, we've got 3 main ways of connecting, be it the app, the mobile web, or the desktop. And the app really is where we kind of shine. From our side, it's making sure that we've got passengers in that ecosystem and then retaining them in that. One of the things we've been doing really well with our airline partners is getting across a lot of the product that they have, if they have the premium product for that. So going back to kind of your premium previous question as well, a lot of this can be rich content, so making sure that we're displaying pictures of the cabins. A lot of our partners are now sending us through kind of videos or kind of 3D modeling. We've moved on from the times when it used to be kind of pictures of your in-flight meal, which looked really impressive and looked really nice, but ultimately we don't see that as converting a passenger as much as understanding how much room you've got or how much space you've got in the seat. So making sure that the passenger has that information and that they can do that comparison, again, when they're looking at this airline versus this airline, when they're in that search process, it's making sure they've got that information at their fingertips.
So you've that kind of rich content. We're talking like video, like you said, videos of cabins and layouts and so on. These are very rich. This is very rich content. Is all coming from the airlines? Do you rely on the airlines to have this content so that you can use it? And how does that change the conversion rate? I mean, you're seeing literally people watch these videos and then they will convert because the video is being made available to them.
We did this as a project earlier this year where we went out to some of our airline partners and specifically said to them, this is what we're looking for, and then we monitored the impact of the results of that, and we did see more interaction with it. So where we had that information available to a passenger, and sometimes it's provided directly from the airline, sometimes it's through a third-party distributor that they work with, but ultimately we wanted to make sure that we had this for as many of our airline partners as possible. And then we could do a really good A and B study, and we saw that people interact with it, so they're interested in it. They'll explore. They're making a big investment, a big purchase, so they want to have all that information. And then once they have experimented and clicked around in it, then yes, we did see that improved conversion rates on that as well.
And this is the challenge with the experience of that. You said your app is where it's excelling, but your app is, you've only got a certain amount of space on a phone to sort of view all this rich content. It's a difficult thing to get across, quite a complex sell in quite a small space. So how is Trip.com trying to address the user experience when they are researching?
Yeah, the user experience is really key, and we have whole teams which do a lot of customer research on when and how to show things. So it could be things simply from pop-up to kind of expansions. Really kind of depends on the type of content that we have in that and how we display it to them. Ultimately, if someone's on a smaller screen, then like you say, that you're limited in terms of the retail space that you've got to kind of show them. The key thing for us is we want to make sure the information is there and it's discoverable, because not everyone will want to look at everything the whole time. So for us, it's making sure that people know that journey and where to find it.
Do you get the impression that people on any route you want to fly, I mean, if you want to fly from A to B, you've only got a certain number of airlines to choose from because they're the only ones that actually operate on that route. So you're not sort of comparing everybody out there for that particular journey, but there may well be 2 or 3 competitors. Are you finding that people will make a decision based on the content that they see online, or are they loyal to a particular brand anyway?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that go into a traveller's decision-making process, and the biggest factors are going to be schedule and price, and that product that they're looking at. But to my comment earlier, where airlines are sometimes unbundling certain products, or how do you compare different cabins and classes of service across airlines, that's something we try and make very easy for the traveller to do by having the airlines branded fare names or cabin names as they would expect them to, so that a traveller can compare our site to the airline's website, but also so they can compare horizontally across other carriers as well, and understand, well, this is the proposition that I've got from this carrier, along with the price, and this is what it looks elsewhere. So for us, it's making sure that they can do that horizontally amongst the carriers, as well as comparing it elsewhere on the web.
We're moving into the world, as you'll know, into this sort of the NDC world. It's been coming for a long time, but we are kind of there now, and there's lots of this rich content is coming through this sort of NDC approach. And NDC was always about actually giving the airlines a little bit more control over how third parties like yourselves do sell their product and do allow it to do sort of put it on the shelves to be researched and booked and so on. How's that changing things in the way you work with airlines today? Because the control's gone to them to some degree, but they're still looking to work with you.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's a partnership in these areas. So depending on what an airline wants to achieve and do with their distribution policies around NDC and modern retailing, they really need their partners, their agency partners, to adopt that and to kind of translate it into the kind of what we would call the front end, the kind of the retail side of the website. Yeah. So you've got the kind of the back end and how we connect with them and what this looks like as a supply and distribution connectivity. But then you've got what does that look like on the front end. So they're quite often saying to us, what does your travellers respond well to? What do they want to see? So in the new world of NDC, where you can have personalisation, where you can have more ancillary options, when you can have more dynamic pricing and these new areas that the airlines are kind of investing into, they really are looking at partners where they can test their own distribution strategies and models. And that's something that we want to bring to it as well, to bring our own value into it. If an airline wants to try something new, if they want to future-proof themselves, then we see ourselves as a partner that they can test with in that area.
Yeah, you can take a test bed. They can do things that they wouldn't do on their own site because that's under their own branding. Yeah. And also they're in a marketplace. They are competing. So obviously any airline would say, well, we'd rather we didn't compete, but competition is reality. Yeah. And I guess as a confident airline that's got a good product, good service and everything, will be confident that it can compete with anybody else. And so they don't mind being out there in a marketplace where people can sort of shop around.
And often they look at us as not just as that premium retailer, but also because we have that premium customer service side of it as well, we also reach into different markets. So the ways that travellers respond to that premium experience, be it booking or product, might be different in different regions, different continents, different markets. So again, they look at us to say, okay, the airline might know its home market very well, but how much do they know about offline markets or markets they don't operate into? So that's where we can kind of say to them, this approach could work over here, but it might not be a global approach. Right. It's again about kind of knowing when to apply certain functions.
Approaches, approaches. You mentioned before about the factors customers choose when opting for a particular airline, and price is always going to be there, isn't it? Clearly price is going to be important, but I guess the resilience of premium travel suggests it's not always about price, otherwise everyone would just go economy and get the cheapest flight they can possibly find. So quite positive to see that price isn't necessarily, it's not just about low price and low cost, you know. It's good for the industry that actually that's not just what we're talking about here. There is this desire to spend more.
And again, another big topic when we come into this is loyalty. We see that with the airlines with their frequent flyer programs, but also within Trip we have our own loyalty scheme as well, Trip Coins. And this is something that really leans into that premium traveller as well. Because again, with frequent flyer programs, you'll have those different tier memberships. We have that around ourselves, so we can kind of identify, and then that means that we can target our travellers slightly differently as well. We've done some experimentation with different partners in the past where we said here is certain offers that they might get in different cabins or different products if they're a certain tier member within trip.com. So again, it's not always about price that makes people choose. It's making sure that they've got the information to make the best decision, but then also offering a few carrots along the way to upgrade or to look at that loyalty as well.
So you mentioned sort of the bundling aspect of this and how personalising the sort of the overall offer, and clearly airlines are looking to get a higher share of spend when people do travel, because people spend a lot more than just on the means of getting there, on the actual flight itself. So how do you work with airlines? How are you helping airlines to expand that sort of share of wallet that they are going to achieve when they're dealing with their customers who are travelling?
This is a really good question, and the way we look at this internally is we see passengers having two wallets. So you have the wallet when you're actually making the purchase, and sometimes that is, how can I buy the lowest fare that's available, but that might not always be the product that they need or want. So that's the first wallet that they have, but then closer to travel, they might have had another paycheck, they might be in holiday mode and want to spend a little bit more. So that's when we'll start talking to them about upgrade. Maybe you want to upgrade your cabin, maybe you want to buy an ancillary product on this, new revenue streams for the airlines in that sense. So we'll always optimize and look at that. We'll understand what their needs are when they're going through that initial booking stage with that first wallet, but then we'll also kind of revisit them and say, well, actually, maybe you do need a bag when you're going to a beach destination. Maybe you won't be able to fit it all into a cabin bag, or maybe actually you want to treat yourself and have an upgrade to a different cabin in that. So some of our projects we've been working on this year have been working with airlines to do what we call fixed price upgrade, and that basically means a passenger can bid for an upgrade and things like that. And this is something that we've seen a good success rate in as well, and just brings the passengers, the airlines, higher revenue as well.
I mean, essentially that's helping customers almost deal with their budget for travel. It's a big upfront cost. They don't necessarily have that. It's at the point of booking. It's a big amount of money to go out of the bank account or put onto a credit card. So if you can help mitigate that pain of that at that point, you get them in, and then, like you say, in the future, in a few months' time, they may be open to something else. And that's what happens. So when you've got intelligence, I guess, when to target, when the best time is to get back in there and say, by the way, we know you're flying in 2 months' time. What have you thought about some sort of upgrade?
So we'll use a lot of our data to understand that, and there's a lot of GDPR that comes into it as well, especially when kind of what you're advertising and selling to them. So from our side, we're making sure that we're giving them the right information when they can use it. There is also, when you talk about wallets, their disposable income wallet. So what are they spending on holidays, on travel, versus home improvements or something else? And that's again where Trip, as a brand, we work a lot with destination marketing teams to say, here is how a passenger can spend, and give them aspirational trips as well, to make sure they're looking at those premium destinations as well as premium products.
Obviously the airlines themselves they investing a lot of time and effort into doing this sort of stuff themselves, and some are doing it very successfully. You see some airlines moving into becoming more like fully fledged tour operators and selling more of the full holiday package and so on. So they can do it themselves. You obviously, in Trip.com and other third parties are also adept at that. So what advantage do they get out of working with you guys on this as opposed to doing it all themselves?
I think the biggest benefit that we offer to our airline partners when it comes to this is we can do all of the heavy lifting ourselves. If an airline wants to set themselves up as a tour operator, there's a lot of costs involved, there's a lot of resource involved, there's a lot of kind of management involved in that. They may kind of save some of their costs, but actually is it just that those costs are being displaced? So working with us, we can do a lot of that all under one roof for them. Knowing they're working with a premium brand, with that customer service element is important to a lot of our partners as well. Ultimately, the other two areas I would focus on is we are a global operator. So passengers come to us because they know that they can search any destination. We're not specialists in a specific area. And also we're that true one-stop shop. So multiple products. It's not just flight plus accommodation. You can do multiple different lines of business, be it train, be it eSIM cards, be it the tickets and tours when you're in a destination. So there's multiple elements that you can kind of you can book through Trip, which the other vendors won't be able to kind of have that full product.
There's also, you can offer different ways of paying as well that the airlines themselves don't necessarily offer. Almost a different experience of booking as well. I think I've used third-party sites, and it's actually been a more user-friendly experience to book certain carriers than on their own website for various reasons. That's the way they want to do it, particularly when it comes to selling ancillaries and adding bags. So I guess your focus is on the only focus you're going to have is to make it as easy to book for the customer as possible.
Absolutely. So there's very much a kind of a balance of making sure that you're helping the passengers convert. So you're getting that transaction, you're getting that sale, providing information, and then knowing who that traveller is and what their lifetime value is there going to be other opportunities at that same time? What we don't want to do is kind of inundate them with every single option, because that's just going to confuse them. So a lot of what we do with our data and technology is understanding at what point should we be showing them what information, and then easing them through on that journey. So as you say, it's a slightly different approach, and it's our technology and data that enables us to do that in a really strong way.
Yeah, and when you talked about your different channels, the website, the desktop, the traditional desktop, but the app seems to be the place where, is that where most activity is these days? Is that where people tend to be going?
Absolutely, and again, there is a kind of a cultural kind of split on some of this, and a generational split on it as well. I can't count myself as young anymore, so even for myself, I'll do a lot of searching on a desktop, or maybe on my mobile phone. But then when it comes to booking, sometimes it's around a desktop. You prefer that context. But ultimately, for us, any traveller will get a better experience on the app. So we want to make sure we're not alienating anyone. So we cater for all tastes in that essence. But the app is really where we're putting more of our focus, and we see more transactions coming through.
Does that point to an idea that people are becoming a bit more loyal to brand? Because on an app, I guess you open your phone, you go to the app. I'm going to go to trip.com. I'm going to go to maybe the airline app. But I've got the app on my phone. I'm going to the app, as opposed to maybe coming from a meta search site and just choosing the cheapest that comes at the top of the results. Are we seeing more loyalty in terms of who you're retailing with?
Yeah, there is an element of that for sure. I think one of the other big things about a passenger going to the app is we will always have our best pricing on our app. So it's not like they're going to find a better price in Meta or somewhere else. So we can reassure them of that. Quite often you'll have more functions. So some of those functions, when you're searching, when you're looking, are things like price notifications that you can set up, which you can't do if you haven't got the app and the settings correct for yourself on that. Okay,
so in the next edition, which we will be broadcasting shortly, we're going to talk about how Trip.com works with airlines to sort of grow their network to focus on particular destinations they really want to get into. But for the time being, we'll wrap up with this edition of ABNCast, just with a few thoughts on where you think we're going in the industry at the minute. There's lots of relatively positive talk about growth, and it's definitely, demand seems to be very high. What do you see as being the challenges of meeting the demand that we clearly have for travel at the minute?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges or / opportunities that we have at the moment is really kind of focusing on how we're working with our airline partners, and our airline partners are working with their connectivity partners as well. It can go in both ways, so it's not just how you optimize and increasing your revenue opportunities by targeting some of that premium traffic, but also how are you managing some of the cost base on the flip side of it as well. And some of that can come into the distribution elements of it, and that's where we kind of look at it with our airline partners on both sides. So how are we making sure we attract that premium traffic, but also how are we making sure that we manage the costs associated to some of that distribution to our airline partners.
Okay, cool. Look, for now, James, thanks for talking to us today about how your role in working with airlines on the premium traveller. Do join us for the next ABNcast with Trip.com, when, like I said, we're going to be talking about how Trip.com works with airlines to grow their networks and focus on particular destinations they're interested in. Thank you very much.
Cheers.